I think of us as the savers and the keepers. There is a lot of history, and if you appreciate history, and especially people who made the history, there is no better place to work than a place like the Margaret Herrick Library.
Academy was meant to bring together the artists, filmmakers, and executives that made motion pictures, and you need to house and take care of the history of the motion picture industry.
The Academy from the very beginning had a library at the Roosevelt Hotel. They collected periodicals and whatever few books were being printed about film at that early date. So there was a sense in the very early days that the whole history of this industry was important to preserve.
The Academy built its headquarters building on Wilshire Boulevard. 2 floors of that building were dedicated to the library, and it was named for Margaret Herrick, who had been our longtime executive director.
We had one of the great specialized libraries in the world, and not very many people knew that.
Moving to that building gave the library a lot more space than it ever had before, but at the same time, the growth outpaced the space.
They had acquired some collections from the studios, and then they started getting individual directors. By the mid-'80s, we knew that this was not going to be enough. There just wasn't enough space, so we had to find something.
Well, we were looking for a space to house a small collection which we knew would grow to be a great collection.
Then I got a call from Bruce Davis, and he said, "Okay, Linda, what do you think about Spanish Romanesque for a library?"
Every morning I would go past this big ecclesiastical-looking building. It was on my route between where I lived then and the Academy, and it was clearly not being used.
This building began its life as a pumping plant for Beverly Hills to ensure its own water supply.
What made it even more interesting was Douglas Fairbanks, who was the first president of the Academy, was instrumental in getting that done for the city. That's why we call this the Fairbanks Center for Motion Picture Study.
A small group of us went first to check it out. At that time, it had been burned. It appeared to have earthquake damage. It had been struck by lightning.
There was a chain link fence around it. There was a lot of graffiti inside and out.
Some of them said, "Are you sure this is going to work? You think this is working?" With fingers crossed behind their back. We said, "Oh yeah, well, it'll be great."
We could all see what it could be. It was a beautiful building on the outside, of course. On the inside, it was an industrial plant, but it was an industrial plant with really good bones.
Persuaded the city of Beverly Hills not to tear it down. We did a long-term lease, which we paid for in total, and then we began raising money for this.
I'm proud of the Academy and the city of Beverly Hills for finding such an important and appropriate use for this historic building.
Moving into this building gave us a higher visibility that immediately began to work to our advantage.
A lot of material began to flow in with higher visibility.
This library contains every type of material you can imagine that is printed on paper. I include photographs in that, screenplays, original documents and letters, posters, advertising materials. One of the promises we make to our donors is that their things will be secure if they're here, but they will also be accessible to people who need them.
The library is open to the public, free of charge, and you can read any one of our 30,000 books. You can look at our periodicals, which now number over 4,000 individual periodicals.
We have everything from students doing term papers to serious biographers, historians, academics, scholars, filmmakers.
It's a great place for research. If you're going to do a book, a serious book on the motion picture industry, you have to come here.
So what we have in this room is primarily manuscript collections. It's a letter, it's a script, it's a document of some kind. All of the material here is cataloged in our databases, fully indexed, ready for use.
It's the premier library of its kind in the world. I think people are thrilled still to walk up those stairs and go into that room.
We're so happy that this material is being used. We don't catalog to stick it away in a drawer or a shelf or a box. We catalog it to ensure that people use this.
These aren't just names to us. These are people to us whose stories are all a part of the big tapestry of motion picture history. And it's a privilege to have their stories in our care and to be able to preserve them and share them. That's what we like to do.